Hello and welcome to this second video on question 2 of paper 1 of this exam, the AQA English Language 8700, Explorations in Creative Writing and Reading. And it's the creative side that I want you to think about in this video. And I'm going to show you a technique that probably has taught me most as a student of English. Let's have a look at it. So here we have the extract from Brighton Rock. And the best way to understand how writers work isn't actually to study them in the way that we do in class. It's to study them in a different way, and that is to imitate them. So let me show you what I mean. Here is the original text, and here underneath is the text that I have written in imitation. Well, how do I imitate? I do it in quite a simple way. I try to keep the word order similar. So where verbs appear here, I'm going to keep verbs appearing in the same place. Where commas appear, I'm going to keep the commas in the same place. Where named nouns appear, Queen's Road, I'm going to have the Champs-Élysées. I'm going to try and keep everything in the same place, but write about something slightly different. Similarly, when we've got descriptions with adjectives, I'm going to try and keep my adjectives in the same place. There's a colon here, look, and I'm trying to keep the colon in the same place, and so on all the way through. When you've got metaphor or personification, I'll try and do the same here. And the reason for that is I start to get into the head of the writer. I suddenly understand, even without thinking about it really, what the writer is trying to do. So, they flooded into Paris from St Pancras every hour, stumbled instead of rocked, down the Champs-Élysées, crowding the tops of trams. And I've had to keep trams because I'm using this to eventually look at the comments in the mark scheme, and the mark scheme is going to make a comment about these trams. So apologies if you've been to Paris, you'll know there aren't any trams there, but what the hell, this is a work of fiction. Dismounted in lemming-like crowds, so the adjective bewildered I've changed to lemming-like. Into the clamour of angry traffic, and I've changed that from the fresh and glittering air. He's gone for a visual adjective here, and I've introduced some sound, but never mind. The new silver paint sparkled on the piers becomes the tricolour danced on the street lamps. So I've changed sparkle to dance, but still kept that element of liveliness. What have we got next? The cream houses ran away into the west. I've changed that. The ornate buildings, I've kept the personification. They stood grandly in ranks. And then there's a simile here, like a pale Victorian watercolour. And I've kept the idea of a simile, like a Napoleonic regiment. Napoleon, of course, was the German President and General. Where are we? Okay, there's a semicolon here, a race in miniature motors, and I've had a colon, I think, here, which is just an incorrect punctuation mistake, forgive me. So you use the semicolon to separate long things in a list. Okay, a race in miniature motors, here I've got a con man demonstrating Hunt the Lady. That's just where they shuffle about the cards, one of which is a queen, and you've got to predict, from those 3 cards where the queen ends up, and obviously it's a con because nobody ever gets it. And for a quiet while, flower gardens in bloom down the front becomes man-made beaches by the river. Actually, if you go to Paris, you can actually find a man-made beach on the river. It's kind of weird. An aeroplane advertising something from all the health becomes billboards. I've kept the idea of advertising. Desperate to capture your wallet. So I've added a bit more in there to suggest that the advertising is desperate. I've added in an adjective that this original writer didn't do. So I've cheated a bit, terribly sorry. In vibrant colours, clashing across the city's walls. So clashing replaced vanishing. The adjective pale is replaced by the vibrant, as in vibrant colours. So you get the idea. What I'm doing is just taking this writer's techniques and the rhythms of his writing, you know, the way that he uses punctuation, and reproducing that exactly in mine. And that teaches me how to write. In a sense, I'm not really thinking too much about the effect of what I'm writing, because I'm just imitating his style. But what happens afterwards is I find that I've written something full of contrast, and it's the contrast between good and bad. So Paris on the one hand looks really attractive, but on the other hand looks slightly threatening. So what's really interesting about this is I'm not really understanding when I write what the whole paragraph is going to look like. I'm actually just moving a phrase at a time. You know, I'm just writing up to a piece of punctuation each time. But Graham Greene is teaching me because I'm following what he did. And it's only when I get to the end of my paragraph that I realise how the contrast works and how the idea of threat works. So a flood is a threat, isn't it? And yet I've started with this idea of Paris being invaded, so these people might damage Paris. They're not really aware of what they're doing. They stumbled in. Crowds are dangerous. You know, they don't think as individuals carefully. They all move in big bunches, and they're lemming-like, which lemmings are famous for jumping off cliffs, so they could be a danger to themselves. The traffic itself is angry and it's noisy with clamour. So Paris appears to be quite a dangerous place, just symbolically. And then that's contrasted with how happy it seems. So the flag dance there. The buildings look rather spectacular. They're ornate and they're grand. But then look at how that suddenly switches to the idea of threat again. So even though they look great, they're arranged in ranks like a Napoleonic regiment. So perhaps Paris is a hostile place. Maybe the Parisians don't like tourists. Maybe they don't like the British. There's also the danger of a tourist of losing your money. There's con men out to con you of it. Buskers are playing. They're obviously after your money as well, but that's a positive one because you might enjoy what they're playing. The man-made beach is positive unless you find that too bizarre and Disneyfied. You wouldn't want a city like that, so you could take that view. And then you've got the idea of the billboards, even the adverts around the city desperate to get your money. Although you can spin a positive on that, the contrast is that the billboards are desperate because the tourist is going to resist paying their money. And they might focus on the vibrancy of the city, how positive it is, or we can have that contrast again because that clashes with the city's walls. And so perhaps the overriding impression you get is that when you're a visitor to Paris, you're going to be caught in the middle of this clash between the positive and the negative, the beautiful and the ugly. And you might decide that that clash itself is vibrant, you know, so worth seeing. Now, I didn't know I was going to write like this, but Graham Greene encouraged me to with the structure of his writing. So I learn how to write well by copying as exactly as I can what that writer does. So I take a similar subject, it's just travelling, isn't it, into a city, and I use the structure of the sentences, where the verbs are, where the adjectives are, where the adverbs are, exactly where the punctuation is. I try and keep exactly the same, with only occasional little cheats. Now what's brilliant about that is that you will start learning how writers write without even thinking about it. So I recommend that technique because it will give you an A star, not just in this question, question 2, but it will also teach you how to be a writer in question 5, and that's half of your exam marks just on question 5 alone. It will teach you how to be a brilliant descriptive writer. Don't be afraid of this technique, because you are learning from the best teachers in the world, not me, published writers. So do that. If you like, you can post the results to my channel. I'll make a video for you and tell you how successful you've been, or give it to your teacher to have a look at, and they'll give you some tips on how to be an even better writer. There's nothing teachers like more than an enthusiastic student who gets their subject and really wants to be passionate about it. So good luck, and if you'd like more videos, don't forget to subscribe.